Now, if qualia do exist, then that means that consciousness and perception of things is different from person to person. And the problem is, does that mean that it's difficult to engage in empathy, the phenomenological sense of empathy? Now, another thought experiment is imagine yourself to be a bat, or imagine yourself to be, let's say, imagine yourself to be a snake. This sort of snake right here. She's not cooperating. Now, just sort of try and take in everything that is about her. She has eyes on each side of her head. So, which means whatever vision she probably has very little vision, because I've seen her try and get a rat where she can't see the rat very well, but she can smell it, which is why she's very active. And she has two very low quality vision fields, and she has a very keen sense of smell, and has very keen sense of warmth because of her pits on the top of her mouth. She wants to eat rats. She is generally cold if there is no source of warmth around her. She uses her muscles a lot. She, does a lot of those things, which any snake does. Let's see, what else can I tell you about her? She uses muscles to crawl around. She's sort of a very elongated creature. She's very curious. She's sort of, doesn't really know everything. She has a very, lesser brain, if you will. Her brain's not that huge. She has very keen sense of smell. But I guess try and imagine that you are her, without legs. You have no legs, but you have some pretty strong muscles which enable you to slither. You can sort of basically see where warmth is. You can basically smell where there's food. You have to go towards warmth to get warmth and be warm. You have to, do things for survival. And just like that, imagine that you are her. Imagine that you are Miss Peaches here. Now, other people will, Susan Blackmore and Ned Block discuss, the whole thought experiment of imagine that you were a bat. And I've heard people say, imagine you're a whale, and things like that. But imagine you are her. So to just try to think about it and imagine, put yourself in her shoes. Now, the whole phenomenological idea of empathy is, trying to basically put yourself in her shoes as if you were her. Imagine your life as her, and what you would have to consider as her, in yourself as her, and imagine that. Imagine your sense of body size. Imagine your sense of body strength. Imagine, sort of just try to put yourself in her place. You can, I'm gonna pause the video right now just so you can think about it. And then I guess what I think that should be gained from this is that we need to try and figure out if empathy is, if qualia prevents the phenomenological idea of empathy. And I guess what my conclusion is of the whole Blackmore and Block experiment of put yourself in the bat shoes and put yourself in the whale shoes, and my example, put yourself in Peach's shoes. or Peach's scales is that you can do that as much as you want, but you are not going to ever come close to what it's like to be a bat or what it's like to be Peaches. You're never going to even get near to the understanding of what it's like to be Peaches. You're never going to get close to seeing what it's to understanding and having her consciousness. You're never going to get close to that. And that's merely because of qualia, and I think animals also have qualia. Not only because of the, human to animal shift here, from higher intellect to lower intellect with the same will as Schopenhauer would say, but just merely, let's say you are another animal and so you are really intelligent and you put yourself in a different species' shoes. Furthermore, let's try and and think about a friend or family member of yours. Think about one that might be going through a tough time right now or whatever, or is active in anything. Think about that. Think about that person. In my mind, I have a friend of mine, and I'm thinking about everything that he has he has to deal with. And I guess I'm trying to put myself in his shoes and sort of trying to engage in this phenomenological empathy. Because the whole idea here is that if you can engage in a phenomenological empathy, then you can get towards intersubjectivity, which is what is explained in here, the Cartesian meditations. And it's also explained in here, the crisis of the European sciences, which is where he talks about the life world and such, as well as the intersubjective life world, which are the same thing. But I guess if you're doing this thought experiment, you're trying to put yourself in your friends or family members' shoes, then you can try and do that all you want. You can sort of just try to think through it and think about, is that, can I understand what that person is going to? And you might think, yeah, I can. You might think, yeah, I can get it. But the truth is that because of qualia, you can't understand the entirety of what that person is thinking in all things that are going on. You can't really fully understand everything that person is experiencing and emotioning or feeling. That's not a word. And I guess the problem is that it is because of qualia. Is there a block from subject to subject empathy? And I guess I want to consider this, and I guess for me the answer is no. But I want to consider this because I want to just sort of think through these ideas of phenomenological intersubjectivity, so that I can just sort of clarify to people who want to try and understand it like myself what the idea of it should be. Now, I guess I'm not thinking about this in Husserl's exact idea of it. I'm just trying to think about subjectivity as moving towards the life world. Because I haven't read the Cartesian meditations as much as I have of the crisis. But I'm trying to get into the CM more. But I guess I'm trying to consider this just because of that one reason of intersubjectivity. And my answer where my opinion is that if qualia blocks intersubjective empathy, is that no, it doesn't. To have empathy, to even have all you have to have for empathy is to have a very mere idea of that person's feelings and understandings, even though there are qualia which will prevent you from ever understanding what that person is understanding and thinking and feeling, which will also prevent people from understanding anything that you're feeling to its entirety. So let's say, trying to think of a good example. Let's say you feel sad because you got dumped 3 months ago, and you are basically all you're doing is just sitting on the couch, getting on your computer, and not really socializing with anyone, and not doing anything because you're sad and you have certain feelings of sadness, certain things which are really blocking you down, and which is the reason why you are just so unhappy and you feel like you don't want to do anything because of it. And somebody, perhaps a friend or a family member attacks you verbally and saying that, what are you doing? You need to get up and go do things, when they can sort of understand, the breakup, but they don't understand your intense feelings of sadness, given the fact that it's been three months. That's probably a bad example, but that's a good way. I think it's a bit of a good way to understand that the entirety of what you're thinking and feeling is not out in the open because of qualia. But I don't know. It's probably a bad argument, but I want to consider this just to think about these sort of qualia, which might or might not be there, but I think that they are there, and I think that because of the qualia that are there, we have emotions based upon those qualia. Because of those units of perception, which are perception for us and not for others. We have emotions that will be based upon those foundations which are qualia. But just my thoughts.